He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
All right, welcome to the Marlow Show. Thank you for being here. We're going to have a hybrid show for you today. I'm going to play the last hour of my Hugh Hewitt stint when I filled in for him on Monday. It's a fun hour. It's nice to have the full production team, so I want you guys to get a sense of that. And you get my real-time reaction to the news that maybe Tylenol is what's causing autism in children. So you'll get that in real time, which I think is interesting. But then I do play a few more of those key clips from Charlie Kirk's incredible memorial in Phoenix, which I was privileged to be to bear witness to that. And I think I'm pretty good at selecting and analyzing those clips. I love to do it, and I don't want to waste that on this audience. So we'll have that for you second half of the show. First half of the show, we got some breaking news. I'll start with what's going on in Texas, where we've got ICE agents being shot at. And this is the big hot item of the day in Dallas. A sniper had anti-ICE ideological motives, according to the FBI and the vice president. J.D. Vance had given a press conference just a little bit before I got on the air here. And he said flat out, we have information that we haven't even shared yet. And these are going to be, but the bottom line is this was another incident of anti-ICE violence. And it'll be interesting to track the media on this because the only person who was killed, I think, was an illegal alien, and the only people wounded were illegal aliens. But so the left has got a chance to be able to spin this, but there were anti-ICE etchings on the bullet casings again. So that seems to be the preferred calling card of some of these left-wing violent actors. So we've got that. And it's noteworthy that John Nolte points this out for us at Breitbart, that it was just a couple of days ago that Jasmine Crockett, or as he refers to her, Congresswoman Hoochie Mama, referred to ICE agents as slave patrols. So they were running slave patrols. Gavin Newsom, of course, had some heated rhetoric for ICE, which I think I shared on yesterday's show, saying, oh yeah, he's talking about masked men jumping out of unmarked cars, people disappearing. Is authoritarianism hyperbolic? BS. He didn't say BS. We're being hyperbolic. So this is him when he was doing his super tough guy, I'm going to swear, I'm going to yell, but all he's doing is what so much on the left can't help themselves doing. They're creating a climate of violence. They're defending or covering for the Charlie Kirk assassin. They are the ones who are suggesting that the real victim in the North Carolina railway car was the murderer. And now we're seeing that the ICE agents are getting attacked, and we're acting like the ICE is the one who's breaking the law. Literally, think about what ICE stands for. Think about what it stands for. Immigration, Customs, Enforcement. That's what it is. If you're against ICE, you're against Immigration, Customs, Enforcement. So don't we want to enforce our own laws? This is the whole thing. Points out breaking the law over and over again. Law and order is not a leftist value. It's not a liberal value anymore in America. They don't like law and order. They like political victory. And they see that the enforcement of our immigration laws is a path for them to not win politically. So that's the big story of the day. And just be mindful of the spin, and feel free to share with me, aloha@alexmarlow.com. You're always free to email, and I read them all. And I will, if you have any choice examples of media not playing this one fairly, then I'll try to bring them out on the show. All right, the fun one that I wanted to get to right away is Jimmy Kimmel gave a sniveling apology. He slithers back to the mic, and that's what they say. They do this about us all the time, so it's fun to do it, where you got to act like they're subhuman. But they do that stuff to us, where they say slithered, like we're snakes. But he is a snake. Okay, so let's hear the apology, or is it an apology? Check it out.
I don't think what I have to say is going to make a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you have to stand up to it. I've been hearing a lot about what I need to say and do tonight. And the truth is, I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about changing anyone's mind. But I do want to make something clear because
okay, so he starts off with the clown nose is on now. So I'm just an entertainer. I'm not a serious guy. And even though that I hobnob with political figures and I have Democrat politicians on my show all the time, and I dialogue with the most influential Democrats, I donate to influential Democrats. I have a friend, it's really a friend of a friend out in Hollywood, who demands, he said Kimmel demands that he donates to Democrats in the area. So he's hyper politically active, has super high visibility, and talks a lot about politics. But hey, he doesn't matter. None of this matters. You can't convince anyone. So then why does he do all the political stuff? And and not just focus on entertaining and ratings. So it's complete baloney from the start. Here we go.
Clear because it's important to me as a human, and that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's...
So that's not an apology. It was never my intention. I don't care if he gets choked up a little bit. We all got choked up. It was a brutal assassination of a handsome, successful young guy with a beautiful young family. Like, everyone's gonna get choked up. So that doesn't make you, now your humanity isn't redeemed, Jimmy. There's no apology in there. There's no I'm sorry. There's no I lied about the assassin being MAGA so far. Let's see if he gets there, but he's not there yet. It's just, I didn't mean to make light of it. Meaning that if you missed the nuance of my comedy routine, then I'm sorry to you. Okay.
If there's anything funny about it, I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do. Nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make, but I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear, or maybe both. And for those...
So we don't see a lot of evidence of the guy being deeply disturbed yet. We see him being someone who is not disturbed thus far. I mean, the furry stuff is weird, but a lot of people, they talk about online as having porn brain, where people lose social skills and they go down these rabbit holes of dark sexual fetishism and perversion. And that's how you get onto these forums where it's like sexualized animals, the humanoid animals, things. Okay, fine. That's a piece of evidence. But other than that, he seemed like a normal guy until that point. There aren't data points suggesting he was some sort of a psychopath. So this is something where he has not examined this person. He does not know if this person did this out of an ideological war. But what we do know is he believed Charlie Kirk harbored hate and that he likes the Antifa stuff. And we know this from what he'd written and what we've read. That he rationally thought through that this was a prominent conservative, how Charlie was described, and he was going to take him out. And he was hoping that it would be romantic for his boyfriend.
To think I did point a finger. I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way. I have many friends and family members on the other side who I love and remain close to, even though we...
Oh, so he's got MAGA friends. This is the new version of I've got black friends. So I've got MAGA friends. So so I should be inoculated somehow. Like, hey, I got a black friend, so I can't be racist. Hey, I've got a MAGA friend, so I can't hate MAGA and like when MAGA guys get assassinated on camera.
We don't agree on politics at all. I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who believed violence was a solution.
He was not a sick person as far as we know. He was an evil person with a horrible ideology. We don't know if he was sick. Maybe we'll learn he was sick, and then we can say he's sick. But Kimmel doesn't know he's sick. He had an ideology. He was a leftist. He was an Antifa guy. He liked the trans stuff. He had a trans boyfriend who was into weird animal fetish stuff. So him acting as though this person he doesn't represent anyone, that's him saying he had no ideology. He had a clear ideology. So that was the worst part of the whole thing so far. Here we go.
Solution, and it isn't. Ever. And also selfishly, I am a person who gets a lot of threats. I get many ugly and scary threats against...
There's another one. You can't do this one in public. You can't say, I get threats. Because we all get threats. Antifa posted the address where I lived in Virginia online. It happens. I'm sure someone as public as Kimmel gets a lot of threats. That's not great. It's not great that we do a death threat culture, but everyone in public life gets them. And just because you get them, it doesn't make it about you, because no one's taken out Jimmy Kimmel. No one should. And God willing, I hope, I certainly expect that no one will. But someone did take out Charlie Kirk, who's a good man. He's my friend. And him acting like, well, I get threats. That's not the same. No one shot you in the throat while you were talking.
my life, my wife, my kids, my coworkers because of what I choose to say. And I know those threats don't come from the kind of people on the right who I know and love. So that's what I wanted to say on that subject. But I don't want to make this about me because, and I know this is what people say when they make things about them, but I really don't. This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this.
Yeah, so he didn't intend to offend us. Then he goes on to talk about how the government shouldn't pressure people to not speak freely or whatever. But it's also hollow because Charlie was shot in the throat while he was speaking by a leftist Trantifa person with a clear ideology. That's what happened. Jimmy Kimmel is on government-controlled airwaves. That's what Spectrum is. We've talked about this many times on the show. ABC benefits from it. And he intentionally lied about the nature of the assassin of Charlie Kirk. That's covering for the assassin. And if the president of the United... and then he mocked the way Donald Trump was grieving over it, which he's allowed to mock whatever he wants. But it was so over the top, and it was one where it was complete disinformation. It was disinformation in a violent assassination culture that's popping up on the left. And we keep seeing these examples. Over and over again, we're seeing a litany, a consistent new plan for the left where they have trans shooting up a church, the attacks on ICE agents, with not just today. There's an attempted firebomb, apparently, of a Fox News van. There was the shooting at ABC Studios I didn't even get a chance to talk about recently over the Kimmel stuff. So it's one of these things where you get and not to mention what happened in the train, where you got a guy who's been a criminal his entire life and arrested a dozen times or more, and he's allowed to walk the streets and murder refugees. The left is completely lost on this issue, completely lost. And they'll go right back out there and they'll start saying, we're at war like Chris Murphy. We'll start saying this is fascism or these are the Nazis, this is authoritarianism as Gavin Newsom has been doing. They're not getting it. People are not understanding it. The data is that most people understand that the right is in a better spot now. They have a better vision on things. And that they're the more peaceful side. But not everyone who's watching MSNBC or CNN are seeing that. They're being told by people like Kimmel that he was MAGA, and Kimmel did not do the most important thing. I said this before, but I'll say it again. The most important thing he could have done in this apology is not even an apology. That's second most important. That would have been nice. But the most important thing he could have said was, the killer was not MAGA. All he had to say. And then it would have been a win for me. Even if he didn't apologize. Apology's nice. I like the apology, but it's and he did not, but I would have liked it. But all I really cared about was him. Let me set the record straight. The man who murdered Charlie Kirk was not MAGA. He was a Trantifa terrorist. That would have been better. He wasn't going to do that. It's infuriating. It's one of the worst apologies of all time. And it's great. As I said on yesterday's show, this is a win-win for us. So Andrew Colvett, who's a friend of mine and the executive producer of Charlie Kirk Show, said that, yes, Jimmy got emotional. So what? He's emotional for himself because he almost torched his entire career. Kimmel is an unrepentant liar who tried to blame Charlie's assassination on the part of the country that just spent the last 2 weeks praying and holding vigils. Well said. What he's really saying is that he still thinks it's fair game to slander conservatives. That's true. He would rather advance his own political and cultural agenda than confront the truth. The truth is that his own side has been fanning the flames of political assassinations for years. The truth is that someone on the left picked up a gun and murdered someone on the right who advocated for peaceful debate. It's critical that liars admit they lied. There can be no restoration without that. Anything short of that is fake and scripted cry line designed to endear him to his fans, not to make right the wrong he committed. Well done. Well done. That's it. And then right away, right after, Newsom is back out there saying that this is an authoritarian presidency. Did I pull this one? I think I made the point. I don't really think I even need it. Let's see if I have it, though. Do I have it? I don't see it. But Newsom's right out there, saying that we're not even having an election because Trump's such an authoritarian. That's a dog whistle to assassinate Trump. Do you guys get that? If we're not really going to have an election, then would you want to take out the guy who's going to block the election? That would be Trump. Trump would be the one who blocked the election. So if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention at this point. But that said, it's still okay. What is okay about it to me is that if Kimmel's on the air, he's getting lower ratings and he's making a fool of himself and he's not being funny. And the left is resort to championing this guy instead of the actual free speech warrior who got murdered. And that's what's striking to people. And so there is always these silver linings to it. When I get into the video, my Hewitt show, we've got, you're going to hear my incident analysis in reaction to Trump and Robert Kennedy Jr. linking Tylenol with autism. This is a pretty long list of doctors and public health respected people who are supporting this, and they're acting as though this is some sort of fly-by-night thing. That's not the case. There's a lot of doctors who are on board with this, including the dean of Harvard School of Public Health, suggesting that Tylenol for babies and Tylenol for pregnant mothers is a risk. Everyone has been sharing this tweet from Tylenol from 2017, where Tylenol said flat out they don't recommend it for pregnant mothers. Now, I have to say, I think that the general public is under the impression a certain amount of Tylenol is okay. So if they can really demonstrate a clear correlation between autism and consuming Tylenol in infancy and in utero, then that's going to be very bad for them. But let's just try to sort this out apolitically. You're seeing a lot of people who hate Trump and hate Robert Kennedy who will announce flat out there's nothing to these studies when there probably is something to it. And you also might get Trump and the Maha crowd and the people who want to get results. They want to see some of the pharmaceutical companies held accountable. They might exaggerate it, and maybe it's just one factor of many, and maybe it's a slight correlation. It might not be a huge correlation, and you still might be able to take a limited amount of Tylenol if you really need it. So let's just ride it out, wait it out, and let's not be too reactionary and to try to get all the best information that we can. All right, I grabbed a couple of clips here of people discussing some of these issues I've introduced today. Oh, we got a Jake Tapper one. Let's play this. This is good.
All right, Jimmy Kimmel, he's a friend of both of ours.
Yeah.
You know him, I know him. We know he's a good person. Obviously, this news is very exciting. But what was your original take on how this all went down starting last week?
I mean, I thought it was pretty much the most direct infringement by the government on free speech that I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So Tapper, who's got his super high haircut, it's just very interesting how he does his hair. And he's on Seth Meyers' show. That's who you're listening to, Seth Meyers. Tapper just wants to be a celebrity. That's all he's ever wanted to be. And he's not really a newsman. He kind of fooled us and think he was a newsman, but he just wants to be a celebrity. And there's such a canned applause line. The greatest government infringement on free speech. I mean, I retweeted this if you go over to X the Everything app and click on Alex Marlow. But Jim Jordan made a really nice list of all of the recent government infringements on free speech, and there's quite a number of them. There is the Joe Biden administration admitting to applying pressure to censor unacceptable and wrong content on YouTube, confirming that the Biden administration wanted Americans censored for speech that did not violate YouTube's policy, and they still pressured YouTube to ban it. And Jordan also details that YouTube began rolling back its censorship policies on political speech thanks to the House Judiciary's investigation. And let's not forget all that Mark Zuckerberg admitted that the Joe Biden administration tried to pressure him to censor conservative outlets, particularly during the coronavirus. There's a clip of Jim Clyburn. I think I lost track of this, but there's a Jim Clyburn clip where Jim Clyburn was flat out saying, we don't want that misinformation out there during the pandemic. They're open about this. The Biden administration was censoring probably factual stuff during the pandemic because under the name of public health, but they do this because that gives them the ability to usurp more of our powers. That's how authoritarianism actually is. Contrary to them saying Donald Trump's an authoritarian, Donald Trump allowed Kimmel back on the air. Doesn't that prove he's not an authoritarian? So the fact that Kimmel's allowed back on the air and then Tapper can go on whatever Seth Meyers on, I don't know, ABC, NBC, whatever he is. Seth Meyers is on one that benefits again from government spectrum. He's not getting kicked off the air. They're free to speak. And then we keep hearing that Trump's the authoritarian. If you're not a dyed-in-the-wool leftist, how could you not see this? This feels like the easiest arguments I've ever made in the show. All right, let's hear a little more.
Networks are allowed to cancel shows. It happens all the time. But this was the FCC chairman saying, local affiliates, it's time for you to say you're not going to air Kimmel anymore. And then Nexstar, which the largest owner of local affiliates, needs approval from Brendan Carr himself to let this merger go through. Yes, sir. How high do you want me to jump, sir? They do it. And it's just.
But does he note that Sinclair doesn't need any of that? So Sinclair blocked them too. So he cherry picking facts. He's so dishonest. He's such a dishonest guy. But I will tell you that of all of the things that I don't like about Tapper, and there are many, one thing that Tapper does do is that Tapper does like Israel. And that's one thing where I don't know how public he is about it, but I think he's an Israel guy. And I got a great sponsor of the show, the International Fellowship of Christian and Jews. Nearly 2 years ago, terrorists murdered over 1,200 innocent Israelis and took 250 hostages. Today, the cries of the dead and dying seem drowned out by shouts of anti-Semitic hatred. Ain't that the truth? The most brutal attack on Jewish people since the Holocaust is already fading from memory. This is right. I mentioned this about Trump's speech. Yesterday at the UN. One of my favorite parts was he was calling on people to remember October the 7th. Christians are speaking out in love and support for Israel, united in faith. They will boldly stand with Israel this October, joining a growing movement, the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, Flags of Fellowship. Flags of Fellowship unites churches all over America, planting over 1 million Israel flags across our land. Together we will combat hate and the scourge of anti-Semitism one flag at a time. And through our prayers, we can save lives, bring hope, and be part of seeing a brighter future unfold. This October, please join this historic movement by donating your flag today. Raise your voice, declare your stand, and show the world that Israel is not alone. Visit ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org. Great sponsors, great people, great cause. Remember we said never forget about 9/11. We got to say the same thing about October the 7th. All right, I got some more clips on some of the news of the day to share with you to see where taking our temperature of the institutional left. Here's Hillary Rodham Clinton.
We have got to stop demonizing each other.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, I think most of that right now in our country's history is coming, from the right, coming from people who want to dominate. They want their point of view. Writing out slavery from history, that doesn't make it go away. We have got to stop with the finger pointing and the scapegoating.
So she says, stop demonizing, and then blames the right for slavery. Which is weren't the Democrats the main segregationists? I'm not saying we don't all have some historical culpability here, but weren't the Democrats historically the more racist party? It's one of my favorite examples of how the university, not just the universities, just even the primary schools got corrupted, is that they try to convince generations of people. I think they've probably been effective in just saying that, the political party just switched. They just switched. So it was the Democrat side that liked slavery the most. And then they just switched. And then the Republicans love slavery now. Like, we love slavery. It's absurd. It's completely ridiculous. So you're blaming us for slavery, which is, of course, a lot of the Jim Crow era South was run by Democrats. And there's just the history of Democrats and slaveholding is so vast and deep. And they want to act like they can't blame it. That we deserve the blame while she's saying we got to stop demonizing people. And of course, it comes from the right. Not the people who are shooting up ICE agents and are shooting up ABC facilities and people who are assassinating conservative spokespeople. That's not the real people who are dividing us. No, it's the right. We're the divisive ones. They know nothing other than politics. It's all they know. All they know is politics. All right, let's see what's happening over on CNN.
Well, I don't think they're the same, simply because Biden, if any of this took place, these weren't jokes. This wasn't a TV show. This was a pandemic. And we didn't need to have misinformation going out about this pandemic. There was enough coming from the president at the time. Put Clorox in your veins? That's the kind of foolishness the Biden.
Yeah, so Trump never said put Clorox in your veins, obviously. And the hydroxychloroquine stuff, it was overblown on both sides. It was kind of benign, a really small level of side effects. It might have worked for some people, probably not a lot of people, but it really wasn't a big deal. And everyone treated it on both sides like it was this huge deal. I've been through all this. I don't need to relitigate it because I know some of you who've been with me a long time get frustrated with this stuff. But it is him admitting, Jim Clyburn, one of Biden's closest allies, we did censor people who are putting out misinformation or disinformation on coronavirus. Do you honestly think it was disinformation and misinformation that they were actually censoring? Or do you think it was something else? So there's admitting all of the government public health stuff was inaccurate during the virus. They were the ones who said we shouldn't mask and then we should mask. And none of the science was correct on this, as I've been through a million times. And then they, of course, were not accurate about the vaccines, and they completely airballed the lockdowns, which was a disaster. So, and then you had, Andrew Cuomo, who got an Emmy for his press conferences where he's giving out misinformation via the government and leading to policies in nursing homes that got thousands of people killed. And yet we're supposed to put them in charge of information. That's the whole point. The government is not good at this stuff. Not only are they not trustworthy, they're not even good at it at all. Anyway, it's enraging, but also, I guess, productive to some degree. All right, that's where we are right now. I really wish I could have spent a little more time on Trump's UN address. There's a lot of cool stuff from the UN today because the Trump UN address, it was just so good. I made a long list of things that I liked about it yesterday, but I don't know if I want to dwell on it too much. But he really just sees the field so clearly. He really understands the threat. He was even saying that like Putin's a paper tiger, which was clearly going to infuriate him, which I thought was really interesting. He sees that Iran as a major threat right now. He was noting that the importance of remembering October the 7th. He was saying that immigration and green policies are destroying Europe. He was calling out Europe and NATO countries for funding Russia's efforts to attack Ukraine by buying Russian oil. He just sees the battlefield so clearly, and it really was unacceptable that his elevator broke. I mean, that seemed like a real security risk. So I don't know the full extent of it, but that was very bad that happened. So we got an amazing president, and he's doing great stuff, and I love when he holds court at the UN. So if you guys are hungry for more content, I would search that out for yourself because it's a enjoyable listen. All right, this is going to be my last hour of the Hugh Hewitt Show that I had with him, where I play some more clips from Charlie's incredible memorial that I think are can't miss, or else I wouldn't be sharing them a few days later. But I do think they're can't miss, and some Tylenol discussion ahead of time before then. So I think you'll enjoy this. Welcome back to the Hugh Hewitt Show. I'm Alex Marlow. I'm the editor-in-chief of Breitbart News, host of the Alex Marlow Show podcast on the Salem News Channel, and the host of, that's the only thing I'm a host of. I also have a book, Breaking the Law, endorsed by Hugh Hewitt. And we were in a breaking news environment here, folks. President Trump was speaking today from the White House about a potential, I would say, piece of evidence to suggest that maybe some of the mystery around the latest rash of autism appearing in children, where that could come from. Apparently he's got some answers. I have not heard these, so we'll be hearing these for the first time together, unless you happen to be watching the press conference. Let's play cut 35 there, Mr. Duane.
The meteoric rise in autism is among the most alarming public health developments in history. There's never been anything like this. Just a few decades ago, 1 in 10,000 children had autism. So that's not a long time. And I've always heard, they say a few, but I think it's a lot less time than that. It used to be 1 in 20,000, then 1 in 10,000. And I would say that's probably 18 years ago. And now it's 1 in 31, but in some areas it's much worse than that, if you can believe it, 1 in 31. And I gave numbers yesterday. For boys, it's 1 in 12. I was told that's in California, where they have for some reason, a more severe problem. But whether it's 1 in 12 or 1 in 31, can you imagine? That's down from 1 in 20,000, then 1 in 10,000. And now we're at the level of 1 in 12 in some cases for boys, 1 in 31 overall. So since 2000, autism rates have surged by much more than 400%. Instead of attacking those who ask questions, everyone should be grateful for those who are trying to get the answers to this complex situation.
All right, so we got one other clip. Let's play this, and then I've got some thoughts, but let's hear a little bit more.
Tylenol. during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. That's, for instance, in cases of extremely high fever, that you feel you can't tough it out, you can't do it. I guess there's that. It's a small number of cases, I think. But if you can't tough it out, if you can't do it, that's what you're going to have to do. You'll take a Tylenol, but it'll be very sparingly. It can be something that's very dangerous to the woman's health. In other words, a fever that's very, very dangerous, and ideally a doctor's decision, because I think you shouldn't take it. And you shouldn't take it during the entire pregnancy. They may tell you that toward the end of the pregnancy, you shouldn't take it during the entire. And you shouldn't give the child the Tylenol every time he's born and he goes and has a shot. You shouldn't give a Tylenol to that child. All pregnant women should talk to their doctors for more information about limiting the use of this medication while pregnant. So ideally, you don't take it at all. But if you can't tough it out, or if there's a problem, you're going to end up doing it.
All right, so the Tylenol parent company is Kenvue. KVUE is how it is on the stock ticker. And they've announced that Tylenol is safe, but stocks still hit record low during the speech. And so what's interesting there's a bunch of interesting things in it. And I'll draw off of it. I don't have a medical background, but I'm married to a physician and have lots of physicians in my family. So there are a lot of missing components here because, first of all, we know that the ability to diagnose autism is much higher than it is or that it was decades ago. So I think that is going to be a clear factor here, and I'm sure it'll be cited by Tylenol in discussions that are going forward. One other thing that's very clear to me that from observable truths that seem to be connected to autism is that older age of pregnancy. Women, but particularly men being older, there seems to be pretty clear correlation between men having children at an older age and more autism. And so I don't know how much that affects it and if whatever data we're going to see released, if that is accounted for in that as well. And I do think also Trump was also suggesting that children not take Tylenol when they're born or when they're young as well, even though the initial sort of press releases were about Tylenol consumption during pregnancy. Final observation here that I'll make here is that this is not vaccine related. And so much of the discussion about autism was assumed that it was related to vaccines. And I think that's been a lot of the online chatter in particular, and people under the impression that some of the vaccines we take are what's been connected to autism. And we're not there yet. So our friend Charlie tweeted, I guess I think it was in April, I don't have it in front of me, but I think that if I remember that correctly, that in September specifically, President Trump was going to make a big announcement with Robert Kennedy about autism. So I don't know how Charlie knew this, and I don't know how he knew about September, but here we are on the 22nd day of September, and here is a big announcement. So connecting Tylenol taken during pregnancy to autism. So we'll see the exact details. Trump obviously does not speak as a layman. He does not speak as a medical person in terms of his language. So we'll certainly have details for you, Breitbart.com, and I imagine he will have some as well in the days to come. But really interesting. But stocks down 25%. This is going to be something bad news for the company that makes Tylenol overall. But I'm interested to see really what the details are. But overall, I will say something for pregnancy. This is what was practiced in my medical household, is that you really want to take as little supplementation as possible unless directed by a doctor. That's just a guarantee that that's going to be the best thing for the baby, is trying to keep things to a minimum. Obviously stuff like alcohol and cigarettes, but even things like caffeine to a relative minimum, and then any sort of medication needs to be kept at a relative minimum. And you want to take stuff that's been really studied thoroughly and feel like you have a great confidence that people have tested stuff in pregnancy. But I will say one other thing: if you are deeply concerned about autism in your life, it is all the more incentive, if you can do this yourself, if you're a younger person or if you have younger people in your life, encourage people to get married and have children at a younger age. I think that's going to prove over time to be the best way to avoid that condition for children. So, and that's what we all want. But really bold stuff and really compelling, and we'll continue to bring you details as I have them, if I have more on the show. The White House has released an autism action plan. Again, I'm reading this for the first time right now on the air. Number one, informing doctors and families. The FDA will issue a physician notice and initiate a safety label change on acetaminophen, which is the active ingredient in Tylenol. Research shows a potential association between acetaminophen use during pregnancy and advanced neurodevelopmental outcomes. Prudent use is needed during pregnancy and for infants and toddlers. So it is saying infants and toddlers as well, so not just pregnancy. And they're very specific here with this use that there shows potential association, so not guaranteed association. So take that for what it's worth. Health and Human Services will launch a nationwide public service campaign to inform families and protect public health. I think that's already started. Number two, making a therapeutic available. FDA will act to establish the first recognized therapeutic, leucovorin. Leucovorin, a new therapeutic for me. Just learning about it right here on the show. For children with cerebral folate deficiency and autistic symptoms. Following FDA's action, state Medicaid programs will be able to cover leucovorin for autism spectrum disorder. National Institute of Health will launch confirmatory trials and new research in the impact of leucovorin. And the third and final item here, increasing research investment through the Autism Data Science Initiative, ADSI. The National Institute for Health will be funding 13 projects totaling more than $50 million in investment to transform autism research. I'll tell you all, a lot of faith in Robert Kennedy. I think he's a guy who actually does follow the science. I think that his haters are wrong, and I think even his most ardent critics are wrong. I don't think he's a conspiracy theorist. I think he's a guy who actually wants to see the science play out. So we'll be interested to see where this goes, but a big announcement on the autism front. All right, we'll be back to memorializing and celebrating my friend Charlie Kirk and talking about the incredible event that I got to witness yesterday in Arizona when we return on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Specifically, we're going to hear from Hugh himself. Stand by. You know, this is very fun with the midday shows. We get the breaking news of free speech being restored in America because Jimmy Kimmel's back on the air. I mean, that was a real threat there. Fascism had really taken over. It's the Kimmel's low-rated show. And then it just is that not surreal? It was kind of worth it just to see the left react to Kimmel having to take a 3-day vacation as if it was worse than Charlie Kirk being murdered on 4K video while he spoke politely to students. Like, just unbelievable. And the left did not see it. They did not see themselves. They failed that test. And then learning about Trump's new autism action plan. So amazing stuff in the middle of a show that was already packed to begin with. We're going to get back to some clips that I think are really important from yesterday in Glendale at one of the events, I would say, of the century for this country. I think a faith revival, the best Trump rally of all time, and a unbelievable send-off to my friend Charlie Kirk, a true legend. But Hugh Hewitt himself, the host of this show and a fast friend of mine, has been on Fox. He was on Fox this morning. He was giving his reaction, and his reaction to some of the left's reaction, which I think is equally important. Let's play Hugh, cut one.
Fox News contributor Hugh Hewitt joins me now. Hugh, great to have you on the program. I want to read a quote from the New York Post editorial board who says this could actually be a good thing for the country, an AOC presidential run, because it will, quote, force the Democrat Party to either finally quit playing footsie with the far left or go all in, and so get slaughtered, opening the way for a new, sane liberal party to surface. You agree with that, Hugh?
I do. I do think that Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez comes out of the Democratic Socialist wing of the party. It is hard left. And I also think, I want to point this out, Todd, when she took to the floor of the House last week to attack Charlie Kirk, it was below the standards of common decency that most Americans expect. And on the other side of yesterday, which I believe will go down as probably the world's largest ever evangelical moment, and the emotional moment where Erica Kirk forgave the killer, the testimonies of Vice President Vance and Secretary Rubio, President Trump's salute to no, there's nothing that anyone with a good heart can't accomplish. That on the other side of that, most Americans, and I think Americans playing between the tens, not even the 20s, but between the tens, are going to say she lacks the basic decency we expect out of someone coming from the Democratic Party. Add on these far left-wing positions that she holds and her charge against Charlie of ignorance, which was rebutted by like Dr. Larry Arnn, president of Hillsdale College yesterday, and Dr. Ben Carson, the brain surgeon and former HUD secretary. And you're going to find yourself looking at a big mountain. I think the sequence of events, from her comments on the floor to that hugely evangelical testimony that went on for hours about the objective truth of Christianity yesterday, to this week, her stock crashed over the weekend because most Americans are good-hearted and not that crazy about politics, and especially about extremist politics, and her policies are extreme. So I think the Post is correct.
Not to be outdone there, Hugh. The country spends one day remembering Charlie Kirk. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett not sharing in that. She doubles down on her vote against a resolution to honor him. Let's listen to Jasmine Crockett.
The rhetoric that Charlie Kirk continuously put out there was rhetoric that specifically targeted people of color. And so it is unfortunate that even our colleagues could not see how harmful his rhetoric was, specifically to us. Yeah, I'm not honoring that kind of stuff. And it is unfortunate that more of my colleagues, even on my side of the aisle, could not see the amount of harm that this man was attempting to inflict upon our communities.
Hugh, she apparently missed Turning Point's Young Black Leadership Summit and, of course, the other outreach to the black community from Turning Point and from Charlie Kirk himself over the years. Your thoughts?
She missed a lot. I saw that. I saw that clip before the service began. It's objectively not true about Charlie. I've known Charlie since 2013. He didn't have a racist bone in his heart. He spoke about issues of race when they came up in the national conversation with great care and concern for listeners everywhere. So it's objectively not true. Again, I think this is going to be putting Congresswoman Crockett opposite 90% of America who never dance on the graves of the dead, especially in the middle, on the morning of what is, again, I'll just say it again, Todd, objectively the largest evangelical service I've ever seen, with person after person testifying to the objective truth of Christianity, and she's attacking the victim and the victim's family indirectly by calling them racist. They're not. She's wrong. An apology would help her. It might redeem AOC. But folks in politics, and I think in the news business, have got to recognize that yesterday was, to borrow Charlie's phrase, a significant turning point in the return of religion to the public square and of belief to the public square. And if they get that wrong and they're tin-eared about it, the American people are listening very closely in the aftermath of it, as they did after RFK's shooting, which I can barely remember, after they did after JFK's assassination. And they're listening not for anything except kindness and decency and perhaps maybe some affinity for religious belief that if it's missing, it's going to put them in a distinct minority. So she did miss a lot. You're right, Todd. She missed a lot of Charlie Kirk. That's unfortunate. Maybe she'll go watch the tapes and call Erica Kirk and apologize.
So well said. Hugh Hewitt, thanks for getting up early.
That was a really expert hit by Hugh, because you could see, Dwayne, you'll know this. The prompt must have been, we're going to bring you in to dunk on AOC and Crockett. And so he did that very efficiently. And then he threw it back to what Hugh wanted to talk about, which is that this was really a moment where God returned to the public square in a meaningful way. And so that's how you do it. That's exactly how you do these hits.
He's really, really good at doing these media hits.
That was perfect. That's exactly right. You answer the question, and then, but in the amount of time where, you got like 70 seconds each for these answers, roughly, pivot back to what he wanted to say. And Hugh's big point was this was the return of God to American politics, which is totally right.
Yeah, don't forget the big picture here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So that was really well done. And the dunks on Crockett and AOC were great. I love the word indecent is perfect. It's indecent. We're mostly decent people. Not all of us, not the people who want to entertain the lie that there's some sort of a MAGA guy, the Kimmels of the world, which I got to say this about Kimmel. Has he apologized yet? Has he taken back the lie? I don't think he has.
No, but so he hasn't made any statement today. He will not make any online statement today. Of course, everybody's looking at his monologue tomorrow. He almost will have to. Otherwise, the calculus hasn't changed for Sinclair and the affiliates.
Yeah, he's got to. But even so, he shouldn't have been allowed to get back on for ABC Disney. And mark this down: he should not have been allowed back on without fully retracting his false statement. Which
so I guess we're no longer in an authoritarian state, right?
We're not. Trump got one-upped by Bob Iger at Disney. That guy's very woke. Bob Iger is woke. He's not. He doesn't look like a woke guy. He looks like maybe one of those CEOs who's, I'm just doing business here. No, he's a woke person. Mark that down as an important thing. I think that something that is so essential to point out, though, from Hugh's clip is that not only did Charlie have a Black Leadership Summit and reach out to people, I was just at an event that Charlie was supposed to be at on Friday in Nashville, and I was introduced to the lead of the TPUSA Faith, who's a pastor, John Amanchukwu, who is a Black man. I spoke on stage with Sage Steele and Jason Whitlock, both of whom were praising Charlie Kirk. Both are Black individuals. Charlie had throngs of Black fans, admirers, and people that Charlie admired who was Black. Ben Carson was there, of course, at the event yesterday. I mean, why do we have to engage in discussion? It's only because Jasmine Crockett is a liar. She's a liar. She isn't just wrong, she's lying to you. And hopefully people see through it. All right, Alex Marlow in for Hugh. So much more when we come back. All right. So I checked in with Mrs. Dr. Marlow during the break, double board certified physician, and trying to get her to take a look at what President Trump is putting out and Secretary Kennedy about autism and its connection to Tylenol. Her response looks like possible Tylenol exposure during pregnancy is the culprit. Looks like possible association. Possible associations were specific, but no high-quality studies have been done. There have been no randomized controlled trials, but those will never be done on a pregnant population because it isn't ethical. So it looks like we're stepping closer to understanding what's going on, but it's not a full-fledged, we've solved the mystery. The end of the episode of Columbo is over. But I do admire that they're looking into it fearlessly, and hopefully that this will provide some good for some people, and we can get to the bottom of certain things. But it would be tough to hold Tylenol stock today, I'll tell you that. All right, I was thinking about Erica Kirk's moment yesterday. The whole speech was fantastic, and everyone should watch it. You should be aware of it. It'll be seen as a historic speech, as was her speech a week ago last Friday. But the key moment of the night, saying that I forgive him of the assassin who killed Charlie, with her lovely preamble where she discussed how Charlie was trying to save these exact people, young men who were not being reached by society and were essentially getting shuffled aside. And that's the exact audience Charlie was trying to court the most, saying that she forgave him. And I was thinking about that in contrast of some of the anger that bubbles up when you play the AOC and the Jasmine Crockett clips. And Trump had a moment, which we're not going to play, I can summarize it, where he was definitely half tongue-in-cheek on this, but saying that Charlie didn't hate his opponents. And he says, oh, but I do. I really do. I really hate them. And it was, I think a lot of people didn't like that Trump said that. But I think he was being half joking because they are so loathsome in so many ways. And it just reminds you of how powerful Erica's moment was. The ultimate act of godliness really is forgiveness. And that is why, as I noted in the first hour, when we say the Lord's Prayer in Catholic Mass every week, we forgive those who trespass against us. It is mandatory. Every single week we remind ourselves of that commitment that we make in our faith. So really important. All right. More clips. Let's play some Erica. How about cut 10 there, Dwayne?
Before he was murdered,
I was Charlie's confidant. I was his vault. His closest and most trusted advisor, his best friend. I poured into him and loved him so deeply, empowered him, because his love for me drove me to be a better wife. Every day he honored me, and I prayed that I could be the wife that God needed me to be for my husband. Women, I have a challenge for you too. Be virtuous. Our strength is found in God's design for our role. We are the guardians. We are the encouragers. We are the preservers. Guard your heart. Everything you do flows from it. And if you're a mother, please recognize that is the single most important ministry you have.
It's just a lovely message for women, even women who have careers and are not trad women. I think that just being guardians and being encouragers is so important. And I think about one of the roles that my wife plays in my life, and I've been very blessed. We met when we were 17 years old and have been together ever since. And she does encourage me, and I think that that's such a beautiful sentiment. And I think it's something that is I don't think I'd have achieved nearly as much as I have in my life if I hadn't had that encouragement. And it's a beautiful message. And then you see some of these women going out, particularly the Crockett's and the Ilhan Omars and the AOCs, and it's just there's so much hatred in their heart, and the hatred flows out of it so publicly. And I think it was Ilhan Omar was just saying how Charlie should be on the ash heap of history. It's a who says these things out loud, and who do you think you're going to be courting with this? Just angry, godless people are the only people who are going to respond to something like that. It's just a profound contrast, and it's something that was really I think it was the heart of the matter yesterday. The heart of the matter was something Erica said that I played in the first hour of the show.
Do you remember a couple of months ago?
Yeah, go ahead, Dwayne.
You remember a couple months ago when Michelle Obama was on a podcast
and
said the least important part of a woman's
that's right
reproductive system was to have children.
Right. Yes.
I mean, just contrast that.
Yeah.
It's just objectively truth what Erica was saying.
And this is what's so important about Charlie's worldview is that a lot of women are told not to serve your husband and submit to your husband, but to submit to your boss, someone in a corporate hierarchy. That no, you don't have time for a husband and to build a marriage with a husband because you're too busy working for Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook or Meta, or you're too busy working for Jeff Bezos, or you're too busy working for Elon Musk, one of his million companies. No, that's not a godly way. Maybe that's a way to financial freedom for some people, but the true way to fulfilling life is to get married with children with a lovely husband who honors you and cherishes you. Hugh Hewitt Show. Be right back. The big question now is, will the ratings for ABC go up or down if Kimmel goes back on the air? Because maybe they'll actually go down. I think that pretty much anything would do better than Kimmel's show. I think people rush to turn off Kimmel once he turns on. So I would love to see it. I think the left really fell for a trap in this one, acting like Kimmel taking a long weekend was worse than Charlie getting murdered. It's just a thought that I had. I'm Alex Marlow, by the way, editor-in-chief of Breitbart News. Very grateful for Hugh to be in here. If you like what you're hearing, please like the show, subscribe to the Alex Marlow Show podcast, Salem Podcast Network. I'm also on the weekends on the Salem News Channel, so that'd be very good to do that. And if you subscribe, particularly on YouTube, I think the suits like that the best, so that's a good one to do. And leave a comment, even if you don't like it. Leave a negative comment, because I'll tell you, the worst thing is no engagement. Negative engagement is better than no engagement. So positive best, negative second best. But I do appreciate everyone sticking with me today. I want to tell you about American Exploration and Production Council, AXPC.org. Washington's broken permitting system is hurting families and America's energy security. And with demand for reliable, affordable energy surging, now is the time to act. Without comprehensive, durable permitting reform, energy producers and infrastructure developers will continue to face red tape and endless litigation, delaying and derailing projects that could make energy prices more affordable, create jobs, and increase our competitiveness with China. You know I want that. The American Exploration and Production Council, AXPC, represents leading independent oil and gas producers that has a blueprint for Congress to fix this broken system. Their plan modernizes outdated and weaponized permitting laws to make the process faster, more predictable, and consistent across agencies and industries. This is common sense reform, cutting bureaucracy, not environmental safeguards. Here's the reality. American-made oil and natural gas will be essential to meet growing energy demand. If we lead, we lower costs for families, secure higher-paying jobs, and strengthen our national security. If we stall, our advertisers step in, and Americans pay the price with their wallets and in lost opportunity. The stakes couldn't be higher. Our economy and energy dominance depends on it. See the plan for yourself. Here's the website, axpc.org. That's axpc.org. Check them out. All right, I want to spend a lot of the remaining time I have to continue to play highlights from the remarkable memorial yesterday, which I have to emphasize, went off without a hitch. I was a lot of nervous energy when I was getting there. I didn't know if people would be able to get in. I didn't know that, and I was lucky enough to be able to have a VIP pass, a humble brag there, but I was close with Charlie, and I was nervous about it, and we got there very early, and they got people in. People were happy. There was an incredible band that Dwayne, you're familiar with the band, right? The music was just sensational, and I'm not a big gospel music guy or revival music guy. I like it, but the church music is not my go-to when I'm doing spins in the house. But these guys, the musicianship, the songs, they were just the singing, just ridiculous, and it kept
these are contemporary Christian artists that are kind of hot in that world right now. My home church, which is Harvest Fellowship in Southern California, which does the Harvest Crusades with Greg Laurie, many of these people are the ones that do the worship music service and energize the arenas or stadiums for Harvest Crusades. And Turning Point reached out to our pastor, to our team, and said, hey, we want to do music ahead of this. Can you help us with some contacts of who might be available? And Greg Laurie got a hold of Brandon Lake and Phil Wickham and Carrie Joby and Cody Carnes and Chris Tomlin, all these really just phenomenally talented musicians. And all asked them, and every single one of them, not just them, but their whole entourage, their drummers and bass players. I mean, the whole team just said, yep, we're in. And they just dropped what they're doing and came.
Wow, unbelievable. And they were so good. They were just really, really striking and adding to the energy. And I love that they had the pyrotechnics and people seeing that, because that's what Charlie would have wanted. Charlie's whole vision was he wanted to have a rock concert event for conservatives, and he thought that was part of the way to win the culture war and the spiritual war at the same time. So,
and it was a celebration of life.
Absolutely it was. And I'll tell you, I cried at a couple of them, but it was a 5-hour thing. It was very, very long. But it was, for the most part, it was very upbeat and celebratory. And again, another thing that Charlie was a happy warrior. And so this is a good way to honor him. All right, I'm going to squeeze in a few more clips. Rob McCoy, Charlie's pastor, who's out in Thousand Oaks, California, gave a very moving speech. We'll play cut 30 there, Dwayne.
Now my responsibility entrusted to me by my friend and his wife. You're going to hear of what Charlie did, but I'm here today to tell you the why in what he did.
I love this. Great pull, Dwayne.
The why brought him the courage. The why brought him the wisdom and the strength. The why is the one that Charlie wanted to welcome as the guest of honor. The guest of honor, his resume is long. He's the King of Glory. He's the Prince of Peace. He's the Savior of the world. He's the living God. He's the God of all mercy and grace. The total embodiment of love, the total embodiment of truth. And he's here today to call his children back to him.
That was one of the moments where I teared up. That one was unbelievable. And he's got an amazing son, Mikey McCoy, who is Charlie's chief of staff, who's a young man who I came to respect a lot, who lost a real mentor as well. He gave a great speech. Also, I want to play some more cuts. Let's play the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, cut 22, please.
And Charlie Kirk was impactful. Impactful because of all the things I've said, but look around this place. There's 100-something thousand people here. The President of the United States is here. His entire cabinet is here. Television outlets and media outlets from all over the world are covering this. I just came from overseas. In every country I stopped, they gave us their condolences for his passing. Impactful. In just 31 years of life, he made a difference. He mattered, and he will matter now more than he ever has before.
Beautiful. I got one more Rubio I want to play, cut 23. This really was one of the best speeches of the night, for sure.
He came to me very recently. He said some quote. I said, who said that? He said, Marcus Aurelius. I said, what district does he represent? I kind of knew who it was, but he said back, no, it's a Roman, philosopher king or emperor. His incredible knowledge. Let me tell you that one of the last messages I had with him was just a few days before his passing, where he wrote me from overseas, I'm in South Korea. I have many concerns I want to share with you when I get back. He was constantly expanding his horizons, but he just didn't have knowledge. He had wisdom, an uncanny amount of wisdom for a man as young as he was. Wisdom that sometimes it takes a lifetime to accumulate. He had it.
We need to bring into that Department of Wisdom that Prager's always talking about. We got to create one of those things. It's a great idea. Great stuff from the Secretary of State. wrap up. We come back on the Hugh Hewitt Show with Marlow. Well, this has been a treat. It flew by just as I had anticipated. I have some people to thank, Dwayne, Harley, and Adam in the studio with me today. I'm Alex Marlow, by the way, author of the Hugh Hewitt endorsed Breaking the Law and the Alex Marlow Show podcast on the Salem Podcast Network, wherever you get your pods. And it has just been an amazing, remarkable opportunity to see the country come together and to celebrate it on air with you good people, just because Charlie Kirk meant so much to me as an individual, but even I had no idea exactly how far his message was reaching. And even though in life it would have gone much further than it had already gone, in death, perhaps it could be even larger. And that's why we need a national holiday on October 14th, Charlie Kirk's birthday. We got to make it a holiday. Let's do it. Let's elevate it. And let's make sure he gets the legendary status, and not just in the eyes of the Lord, but in the eyes of man. And I've got one more clip I've been meaning to play for you guys. This is J.D. Vance.
It is better to be persecuted for your faith than to deny the kingship of Christ. It is better to die a young man in this world than to sell your soul for an easy life with no purpose, no risk, no love, and no truth. Christ told us in the Gospel of John, I have said these things to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but take heart, I have overcome the world. Charlie took heart, and now we must do the same. I've seen so many of you say, so many on social media, talk about for Charlie. We must do this for Charlie. For Charlie, we will speak the truth every single day. For Charlie, we will rebuild this United States of America to greatness. For Charlie, we will never shrink, we will never cower, and we will never falter, even when staring down the barrel of a gun. For Charlie, we will remember that it is better to stand on our feet defending the United States of America and defending the truth than it is to die on our knees. My friends, for Charlie, we must remember that he is a hero to the United States of America and he is a martyr for the Christian faith. May our Heavenly Father give us the courage to live as Charlie lived. That is what we must do for Charlie. You ran a good race, my friend. I love you. We've got it from here. Thank you.
Sensational way to end the show. Thank you, Hugh. Thanks to all of you in the audience. Hugh is back tomorrow. I'm Alex Marlow. Thanks for listening, and thank you, Charlie Kirk.